This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello and welcome. It's Thursday, October 21st, and this is Orlando Sentinel Now. Today, we're talking about housing permits booming in Florida and what's going on in high school football. I'm your host, Joe Mario Pedersen, and joining me today, I have real estate reporter Trevor Frazier and high school sports reporter JC Carnahan. Thank you both so much for being here today. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Trevor, coming to you first for one of your latest here. Florida home permits boomed this year. Metro Orlando, not so much. But before we get to that, want to ask you, as far as Florida goes, where did we see this growth?
So the number one in the country, as measured by the number of single-family home permits that they approved versus the year before, was Ocala, which is not terribly surprising. They've had a lot of building of distribution centers over there. Amazon has a distribution center there. Chewy, some of the other big internet retailers are building distribution centers there because it's a very connected place to the rest of the state. I-75 can take you up into Georgia, can take you down south, so on and so forth. So they can put a lot out on the road there. So because of that, there's been a lot of building in Ocala, but it's really all over the state. We've seen it close to us in Lakeland and Brevard, and we've seen it out in the West Coast and down south and up north. Florida had, in a list of the top 50 cities for the greatest change in the number of permits for single family homes over the past year, Florida had 11 cities in the top 50. 5 of those were in the top 10, 9 of those were in the top 20. The next closest state was Texas with 5 cities in the top 50. So Florida is booming. People are coming here and builders are really betting on more people coming here. They're betting that the thing that we saw happening during the height of the pandemic, when a lot of people started moving to Florida, they're betting that that's going to keep going.
So multiple cities within that top 50 here in Florida. Orlando, not one of them. So that being the case, how was Orlando's growth in this year?
So yeah, don't mistake this for the only the cities in the top 50 had any growth. Orlando still approved almost 9,000 single family home permits this past year. That's already a 20 more than 28% increase from the year before, and of course the year before was COVID, so it's really an 18% increase over 2019. Like it was a big year for us going forward. And I spoke to a developer who said, yeah, don't count out Orlando. Don't, there's still lots to build inside Orlando. It's just that in Orlando, as you get closer to the urban center, land is expensive. It's hard to get big tracts of land so that you can build what are called master planned communities, which is one thing that are selling really well. Master planned communities are things like Celebration and Baldwin Park and so on, where you're kind of mixing a little bit of commercial with residential. And there's just not a lot of land available for that inside Orlando. So we're seeing Deltona explode. We're seeing, again, Ocala, Lakeland, Winter Haven, these places where developers can still get a lot of land and start building these projects. Seems to be where the sort of trend is on that.
Trevor, over the course of this year, we've talked a lot on this show about real estate and really how prices have continued to skyrocket here in Central
Yeah.
Florida and really everywhere because there's been such a shortage of homes. With this expansion, are we seeing perhaps a lessening price point?
Well, interesting point on that. So for the first time over the last 11 months, the price actually went down. The median price for a home in Orlando went down. It had been rising just steadily every month since last September. 320 was its high, and then it just came down to 318, which is not much of a change, but it was the first time that we've seen it come down in a while. That has more to do with people being settled, schools starting, fewer people out looking for new homes, and so on. But there has long been, long time, been calls from economists to build more in Orlando because we have been facing a shortage of new construction. Since the Great Recession in 2008, builders got sort of scared away from building a lot of new buildings. And so we didn't build as much as we should have over the intervening years. Like I said, I talked to a developer for this story who said that there's more to it than that, that he believes that we're not so much facing a shortage as we've moved more to multifamily units and so on, which is true. This could be the start of builders really ramping up, really building more in the area. On the other hand, it's kind of too soon to tell. We don't know how the trends are going to work, whether work from home is going to continue to be a big thing. That's pushing a lot of people out to the edges because they're saying, hey, if I don't have to commute, I can live wherever I want. I can have a big house and a big yard and so on, and get it cheaper than I can near an urban center. But on the other hand, if work from home doesn't remain a big thing and commutes come back, then people might want to start moving back in closer to job centers. We really don't know where that's going to go. The other thing that we're facing right now is a lot of delays in building. Building materials are all backed up. Permitting is backed up because a lot of offices still are not fully staffed. City offices still are not fully staffed. So there are a bunch of delays. The developer I spoke to, a man named Jerome Hinnon, he said when the vaccine came out and people thought the pandemic was over, a lot of builders jumped on everything they could jump on. They grabbed every project they could possibly grab and they started to get their crews back. Well, since they all did it at once, we ran into a log jam there. And he's like, so it's possible that it's going to slow down. It's possible that we're going to see this sort of taper off over the next year and not be as big a jumps around us. But the overall impression of him and the economist that I spoke to is that, oh yeah, growth is still coming. Growth will continue here pretty steadily, and that new homes are definitely on their way.
Some pretty welcome news for buyers there. Really interesting report, too, with a lot more details than what we described right now. If you're interested in finding out more, take a look at Trevor's work at orlandosentinel.com. Trevor, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, JC, coming over to you now. It's week 9 in high school football. And before we get into the top games to be on the lookout for this week, I want to ask you first about 3 teams who are fighting for playoff spots. Can you tell us who they are?
Yeah, when you look at with just 3 weeks left of the regular season, we've got quite a showdown in the making here. In one particular district, you've got Ocoee, Apopka, and Lake Brantley, all 3 teams unbeaten in the district. Looks like right now, the only one team, the district winner, could make the playoffs because you've got Ocoee, number 7 in the region, Apopka, number 8 in the region, Lake Brantley, number 12. Now, only the top 8 teams get in. That means, you got Ocoee and Apopka jockeying for position there. Ocoee plays Lake Brantley this Friday. Next week, Apopka and Lake Brantley play. And then a special Tuesday game is going to take place between Ocoee and Apopka because that game was postponed from earlier in the year. You may remember Ocoee was sidelined for 3 weeks this season due to COVID. So it's going to be a hectic schedule down the stretch for those 3 teams. Something great to pay attention to as this thing unfolds.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a nail biter as we're getting ready to see the season wrap up here. But keeping things focused on this week, can you tell us about the top games that you're paying attention to? I guess the top teams among the Super Sentinel 16 games that we're looking at this week.
Yeah, we've got some great matchups here in week 9. And the game that I will be attending is going to be number 1 ranked Lake Mary at number 3 ranked Sanford Seminole. Seminole, the defending state champions. This is a huge rivalry game. I actually talked to booster club presidents from both schools this week, and we have a story up at sentinelvarsity.com that has some interesting quotes from both of them. There's no love lost between these 2 communities. The schools are only less than 7 miles apart from one another. A lot of these kids grow up playing youth sports together, and then they, once it comes to high school, you're either going to Lake Mary or either going to Seminole. And then here's what we get, these great matchups on a Friday night. So it's going to be really exciting for that game in Sanford. 2 others to really keep an eye on, though. These are all district matchups. So you talk about the district championship being at stake here. This is the week for it. You've got Jones High School is going to host Lake Mineola. Lake Mineola was the Class 6A state runner-up last year. Jones High School, number 4 in my Super 16 rankings. Lake Mineola, number 9. And Jones is in good position already to make the postseason. Lake Mineola, though, They're on the bubble. So if they lose this game, this could be a tough one. This could really push them on the outside of the playoffs. But the other game that's really worth paying attention to, and look, if I wasn't going to be in Sanford on Friday, I would be at this game. It's Kissimmee Osceola at West Orange. I've got Osceola, last year's Class 8A state runner-up. I got them ranked number 7. West Orange is ranked number 6. The interesting thing about this, Osceola has not lost a district game since 2010. Okay, West Orange already snapped a long district streak for Dr. Phillips earlier this year. They're looking to do it again this week. And so this is going to be a great matchup. Two tough defenses, playmakers on both sides of the ball for both teams. That's really one to keep an eye on, of course, as well. And so once again, week 9 of the high school football regular season, jam-packed with some great matchups, and it should be a good one.
Absolutely. Really impressive stat there from Osceola. If you all can't make it out to those games, be on the lookout for JC's work in the coming days. JC, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, before we all leave you today, we do want to talk about Thursday's weather presented by Premier Sotheby's International Realty. Temperatures Thursday are looking to remain the same as the past few days, with highs in the 80s and the low in the mid-60s. Thursday's high is forecast to rise to 85 degrees, with the low hovering around 65. Temperature lows should remain in the 60s throughout the weekend and into next week. Friday and Saturday will have the hottest highs of 86 degrees. As for skies, Thursday through Saturday should be partly cloudy and mostly clear, with chances of light rain returning to the forecast Sunday and thunderstorms predicted to start the next work week. For more on that, be sure to take a look at OrlandoSentinel.com, where you can get caught up with the stories that we talked about here today, as well as all the different events happening in and around your community. If you're a subscriber to the Orlando Sentinel, thank you so much for supporting this kind of work and supporting local journalism. If you want to do so, if you find this information valuable, please visit OrlandoSentinel.com/subscribe. As for OSN, that will do it for us today. But a big thank you for Trevor and JC for keeping us filled in what's going on in our community. We'll be back again with more news tomorrow at noon. We'll see you then. Stay healthy and stay safe.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on OrlandoSentinel.com.